it was really a benign. And I noticed the minute the men came, we had all these gentlemen with beards that were running the college. And I thought, oh, that's a shame. I think it's a good thing. Vassar has survived. And if we think of the Radcliffes and the Pembrokes and the Barnards, they're gone. But we survived. Vassar survived. And I think our survival speaks very well for the strength of Vassar women, of Vassar education.
I think it's wisest to remember it the way it was and what we had and think of it as a new place now.
Well, of course, like everybody else, I was against it. At the time, I was deeply involved in the women's movement, and as a staunch feminist, I felt that there should always be schools, colleges, strictly for women, so that they can concentrate on themselves and on their own needs and their own education. So I was very much opposed to it. I felt that Vassar should stay all-female. However, I must say that my son's got a wonderful education there, and I think that it's made the transition very well.
It's great. I think what's going on there in the last 50 years has been phenomenal.
I loved it that there were no boys there.
I remember some of us, when we went back to Reunion, and we were in one of these co-ed halls, we were horrified. We'd go into the bathroom and here were these hairy legs in the stall next to you. It really, we just couldn't adjust, and I think from then on we did have men's johns, ladies' johns, but the first time it was pretty shocking.
Without men around, between Monday through Friday afternoon, I felt I could concentrate on my schoolwork. And I think if I had gone to a co-ed school, I mean, I would have worried about how I looked when I went to that 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning class. Because let's be honest, the hormones are raging at that age. And the opposite sex is right there. I think it can get awfully difficult. I could go to the library on a Wednesday night. There are no guys around. It was no problem. When I wanted a guy, I could get one on the weekend. During the week, I didn't want to be bothered with him. But if some guy asked me out at 9 o'clock for a couple of beers on a Tuesday night, and I'm sitting there slaving over some English paper, unfortunately, I'd probably go with him.
We did sometimes.
I loved being educated with women because our voices were heard and we were taken seriously.
I was of two minds, but I now think it's fine.
I think it's great that it became co-educational. I think it's kind of moved out of the ivory tower and kind of entered the real world, which I think is definitely a plus. It has added a lot of enthusiasm. I think the college really has really come into its own as a place to go in certain departments, in the theater department. So I think it's a great place.
It was a very great thing that Vassar women were being trained to make a difference in the culture and in the society. I was very sorry to learn that Vassar had become co-ed, because the thing that was special about Vassar would automatically be lost. And what it really was doing was urging women in the direction of becoming full and complete cultural citizens. And that was an admirable thing to be part of.
Even if 1/3 of the guys are gay.
I can't tell you how many of my daughter's friends married Vassar men.
They're straight guys, though, right? I hope. Well, you never know anymore.
I don't know, but I don't make a lot of jokes on that. I really don't. I find that objectionable.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I just told you.
Well, I'm saying, you hope your daughter doesn't marry a guy that likes
I want my daughter to marry who she wants to marry.
Oh, all right. Oh.
I was very disappointed when we went co-ed, and I've been very honest about that. I think we made a major mistake. Probably it had to be done financially, but I think it was a major mistake. I think that we need to have more women's colleges.
I think that Wellesley and Smith at Holyoke
Henry Street Settlement.
were obviously hung in there.
In Yorktown.
I just felt that Vassar made a bad mistake. It's what it is in the same category to me as a sophomore. At this point, it's not the prestigious
like the fresh
school that it was when we were there. We were in the Seven Sisters. We were up there with the Smiths, the Wellesleys, the Radcliffes. I mean, at least the girls that went to Radcliffe were still going to Radcliffe is now Harvard or Harvard. Were
you did
nothing.
I hesitate sometimes in even trying to market the school to young women.
My daughter went to Vassar. It was, for that daughter, the best experience that I could wish for any young lady. Impressive, very impressive.
My relationship with the college is based on the friends that I've made there. And that is very important to me. But the college itself, I really have no interest in anymore. Well, Vassar, kind of nowhere.
I have appointed myself a committee of one to prevent the college from going co-ed. And I contacted the Philadelphia area Vassar Club, and they said they'd rather that I don't speak to them. Now, when I went to Vassar, I spoke to the dean, who told me that this is what the administration wants. So my project died. My daughter went there in she graduated in 1980, and I was happy as you were with what had happened to the college over the years.
If anything, I would say that it contributed to a stereotype that many people had about sort of an upper class privileged childhood. I'm sure the college isn't seen that way now, but it was for people of my generation, but I don't think that it has the privileged WASP stereotype that it once did.
Do you think Wellesley and Smith still have that reputation today?
Yes, I do. In fact, I think Wellesley has had a very high reputation because of some, or say high-profile people such as Hillary Clinton.
Barbara Bush, too.
Oh, I never thought of her. But I suppose you have to.
All sort of privileged young girls. But we're not just talking about the students, we're talking about the attitude. I assume that was all the same. And
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Well, I can't compare.
When we get the floor, we can tell what
I don't really know about I see Joan.
Wellesley was so different from Vassar. Vassar was so unique in that they taught you to think. They weren't as strict or as by the book or whatever, the traditional, this is what you have to learn deal. They taught you to think.
Yeah.
It was just such a freeing educational experience. And I don't think Wellesley was anything like that.
Wellesley, my personal experience, my sister went there and graduated and she wasn't crazy about it. My sister and her roommate decided to go back to their 25th reunion some years ago. They were going to take 2 cars up to Wellesley. The girls were in the front car and the husband's in the back. Well, they were driving up the highway and my sister said, I don't know, who do you suppose is going to be there? And they started talking about it. And then all of a sudden they pulled over the side of the road and the men pulled over behind them and they said, why are we going to this place? We can't think of any reason anybody we liked. We can't think of any professors we liked. Why are we going here? So they turned around and went back home.
Oh my gosh.
And that was the end of that. So you can imagine. That's all I know about that.
Well, if we could go back to that subject about the difference between Vassar and Wellesley, I think each one of those schools had its own personality. Radcliffe definitely was the most intellectual. Yes. One of the two.
Bryn Mawr was the
one that had the highest qualifications. When I graduated, the people from Texas who were going east to school wanted to go to Wellesley if they wanted a sort of jeune fille bien levée, all-rounded. Vassar was much more interesting, much more literary, much more creative, much more interested in the arts.
Well, Vassar has really